Okay, I have the questions here. So before, could you just introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. My name is Matthias Beier. I'm president of the Transatlantic Business and Investment Council. I'm very glad about this interview. We are a member organization of more than 100 American economic development organizations, EDOs, in Europe. So it's our job to connect European companies planning to expand to the United States with economic development organizations from different parts of the US.
Cool. So how do you think the conference went today?
I think it went very, very well. We were very glad about a great turnout. We almost had 100 participants and guests here today. So we had our members here, we had site selection experts here, we had a couple of company reps here, and we also had the consulate generals here from Germany and from the United Kingdom. That was a great honor for us, of course, but also binational chambers of commerce and other important stakeholders. And I really think a conference like this is important just to have discussions on transatlantic business relations, on workforce development, site selection trends, and to gather the whole transatlantic community to an event like this is very important for us.
Cool. So as the CEO of TBIC, what are the key takeaways from this conference?
If I look back how hard it was over the last years during COVID sometimes to bring together a group, especially for international events, we really feel that it's important that people have the opportunity again to interact with each other in person, to have the personal conversation, but also like all the things which are around the conference, which are often not even organized by us. You know, if people are going out for lunch together, if they're going out to dinner together, these are the connections that, of course, people need and which are important. And at the same time, of course, it's important to bring together consultants, economic development organizations, and industry representatives.
All right. So what are the three main sectors driving growth in the TBIC member communities?
I think on the one hand, one thing we should never underestimate, even though it's not the focus of TBIC, but of course the domestic projects, the projects that companies have of existing regions have of existing companies which are already there, which are expanding, then American companies that are expanding. So all these domestic projects are not really our business, but we know, of course, that this really drives growth in our member communities. But then, of course, it's foreign direct investment. And this foreign direct investment is mainly coming from Asia and from Europe, and that's where we are very involved in. And it's important to keep in mind that 80% of all manufacturing jobs that have been created in the US over the last 20 years have been created by foreign companies. So it's the European companies, the Asian companies, the international companies that bring back blue-collar and manufacturing jobs to the US.
So the second last question, what makes the site selection process successful in your opinion?
I think what's important is to do the site selection systematically. We often speak with companies who are in favor of a specific city or region because they have been there on vacation, or they know someone there, or they have heard it's a good place to do business. And this does not need to be entirely wrong, and it can often work out well. But nevertheless, we think it makes a lot of sense to have objective parameters on how you can compare regions with each other and sites with each other and buildings with each other and workforce. And then, of course, it is very important to have a realistic time frame. We often see European companies that plan on opening a US facility within a few months or less than a year. And I think this is very, it's probably not impossible, but it's pretty hard to have a systematic process in such a short time. So I think it's important to plan enough time for that. And then, of course, finding the right partners in the US to interact with and those who can also help you with the site selection process, like consultants, economic development organizations, and all kinds of people who are your boots on the ground in the country and that can help you with all questions that you might have around your site selection.
So the last question, could you give 3 pieces of advice to European investors wanting to expand into the United States?
Yeah. I think for Nordic companies, it is important to connect with binational industry associations like the Danish American Chamber of Commerce or the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce. I think these kind of organizations are important. Of course, there are also European chambers which can be helpful as well. There are economic development organizations, which I've already mentioned in the US. And there are also great events like the Select USA Investment Summit once a year, which brings together international companies from all over the world to Washington, D.C. to meet all the stakeholders they should need if they are planning or when they are planning to expand in the US. The second advice I would have is do not underestimate the value and importance of your company. A company from Finland or from Norway, as long as they are not in the gas industry or energy industry, might not have the same size as many American companies, but nevertheless, they bring in a very specific knowledge, a long tradition, and they are usually very efficient, and they are successful in Europe already and in their relatively high-cost countries. So when they are coming to the US, I think they should not underestimate their value just because they might be smaller than others, because they create great jobs here in the US, and that makes them very important for the regions in the US. The third advice that I have is do not underestimate costs and time that it requires to expand in the United States. Traveling from A to B in the US takes more time than in Europe, obviously. Flights are more expensive, you need a rental car, you need hotels which are also more expensive. So do not underestimate that. You cannot just go here, meet a couple of EDOs or a couple of consultants and then make your decision. It usually takes a little bit longer. If your company does not have the resources, the human resources to do that, probably look for a consultant, look for a project manager that can help you with this process. So someone who is really focused on connecting the dots and keeping up the conversation and the communication for you.
Perfect. Is there anything you want to add or we haven't talked about, or is it okay?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah,
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.